Oh, the smooth sounds of Craig Hummer welcoming us to the studio for another big day of the Two Big Guys in Grover podcast. We are joined all the way from Big Sky Country, Montana, the goat himself, Flint Rasmussen, with us via Zoom, and our Zoom is secure. It's not being hacked.
Yeah, no
Oh,
worries.
good. I'm.
Yeah.
Well, I had to turn my volume up.
Oh, there you go.
I think.
Oh, now the lights are up.
Hold on. I know this isn't official. I had to turn my volume up,
Oh,
Scott.
okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we thought maybe you're going to pull it. So we had Brandon Bates on the other day, and Brandon just goes ahead and gets up. He shows us his movie theater room in his house.
Memorabilia.
All of his
He acted
memorabilia.
like it was all of a sudden it was like MTV,
MTV.
Cribs.
All about Bates. Imagine that.
That guy. Well, I'll tell you if you want. I mean, it would take up a lot of your show here if I was to show you around my one-bedroom apartment. Hold off. I do have my Sacramento Kings jersey and an
Oh,
axe
that.
on my wall. So,
Well,
you know. I want you guys to know I smell good right now. I just took a shower. I ran my 3.5 miles this morning
Good.
outside. Meet a few people on the running, walking path. We part our ways.
Yeah.
But, you know, we joked about before we went on the air about trying not to get the virus. I do what I'm supposed to do and don't worry about it. And I'm not the guy saying I'll never get it. So if I get it, I'm okay. But I just do what I'm supposed to do. But I don't know that you can just walk around scared, can you? I mean, we're in this world. Scott, maybe I told you this. I think our country is, I came up with this on my own. The 3 Ps: panic, protests, and
Yep.
but you can't walk around scared. And so I think, there's different, I know the rules go across the country, but it's way different in Montana than it is in New York City.
Mhm.
I can leave my house and not be around people. I don't know if people in New York City even realize that's possible. You guys know.
Yeah.
You're small town guys. So I go out and run and go outside, and I went to the grocery store yesterday. It was about 50-50 with masks. So no mask, no gloves. The greatest though, fellas, was an old guy. This goes back to my thing of optics. If you're gonna do something, do it right. And he was pushing the cart with one hand and holding the mask on his face with the other hand.
Yep.
Hey, old timer, you're touching your. Yeah, I just touched my face too. But I'm the, but like my grandpa used to say, why do I got to wash my hands in the morning? I kept them under the covers all night, so I'm good.
Hey, hand me a roll, Grandpa.
My granddad Pete used to say that all the time. Why do I got to wash my hands for breakfast? They were under the covers all night. So yeah, we're good.
Leaving that one alone.
That's funny.
Leaving that one alone.
That's pretty good.
That is awesome. So part of the reason that we're doing this is we want to learn more about Flint Rasmussen, and we want you to be able to tell your story to the masses because, I mean, everybody's following us right now. But you grew up in a family full of rodeo announcers. So did you just feel like since there was 2 of them, you couldn't be a rodeo announcer? You had to be a clown, or what was the reasoning behind that?
Let me make something straight, Scott. As you know, if there's one rodeo announcer in the family, it's full.
It's full.
I agree.
There's only room for one mic.
I agree.
I'll tell you what, my dad was old school rodeo announcer, but he was the voice. Growing up in Montana, we didn't go out to PRCA rodeos. He was in the Northern Rodeo Association, which even now in Montana, but I think even more back then when I was a kid, huge. People call them amateur associations, but I was brought up to not call them amateur, that they were regional associations. And he was the voice of the NRA. And I mean, everybody knew my dad's voice. And he was kind of the old school, he's still to this day, announcers shouldn't judge the ride, oh, look at him spur, stuff like that. Don't talk during Anyway, he was also a great straight man. I watched old traditional rodeo clowns. I wasn't enamored with them, but always curious. And my dad, and I got to work with my dad a few times. And when I started, you could do material, or another clown could do material that he had heard 200 times. And you would think that was the first time he'd ever experienced what that guy was doing or what I was doing. He was the greatest straight man ever. But more than anything, he taught me timing. Like I'll never forget. I wasn't even, well, maybe it just started. And he taught me, he said, never do something funny. Never, they can tell you what they want, committees, fans, whatever. But when a rider is hurt, that is not your time to entertain.
Yep.
You know, people will say, oh, a guy's hurt, go entertain the crowd. Nope. He said, there's nothing funny about it.
Yep.
Or if there's an animal hurt, there's nothing funny about it. And he taught me about timing. My mom always said I grew up on the steps of an announcer stand. So I didn't grow up watching rodeo from the bleachers. I grew up looking down, watching, so I could, you know, Scott, you and I have worked together, right? I think one aspect that people miss in this profession, and the guys who do a good job at it, is to look at a bull rider, see where he is in the process of getting ready, and know what you can start and what you can't. And I knew that at a young age. So then my brother Will, he's a great pro rodeo announcer now. My dad had booked, he was in radio in college, and my dad had booked, he had 2 rodeos overlap, so he sent Will, I think, to Gardner, Montana, I think. And then Will took off. So yeah, I didn't, man, the announcer thing, I announced basketball games and football games in college and after college and loved that. But I don't know, I've never had an inkling. You know, I can pop in like with you, Scott, and do a little commentary or give a little input like on Ride Pass. But I told you when we were in Duluth, you're the glue, man. You guys, you bring it back, throw it to me, and I'll fill in and throw it back to you. So, you know, just a different mentality, I guess.
Well, and I will I will contest to this. Nobody does a better Will Rasmussen imitation than Flint. And Flint, you might even be better than your brother at doing your brother's voice.
Scott, never better.
Oh, love it.
Are you ready?
Are you ready? So
He'll call me. He calls me on the phone, and it's never just, "Hey, what's up?" My nickname growing up was Fred, with my family. So he calls me to this day. Hello, I just say, because I know what's coming. Hello, Freddie, what's up? So I was doing one of my Facebook Live deals the other night, and one of the comments that scrolled by was my niece, Will's daughter, and it said, Freddie, what the hell? It was hilarious. Yeah.
When did I still remember the first time I ever got to watch you work was Abilene, Kansas. You were there.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Lucia was there, and McKee was announcing. And
Justin was
I think, and a transformer blew in the middle of the rodeo, and there was only one light that worked in that entire arena. And you spent about the next 25 minutes in that light just entertaining the crap out of people. You didn't have to. Everybody would have been fine. The committee would have said, we'll wait it out, whatever. There wasn't any music, there wasn't enough power, but there was one light in that arena. I just remember you entertaining under that light for about 20 minutes.
Well, the power went out because Justin McKee was in charge of paying the bill.
There you go.
You know,
oh, that's funny. Might be true too.
That happened. That also, I forgot about that, Scott. But yeah, that also happened to me one time in Kalispell, Montana. Bob Tallman was announcing. I don't know. To me, it's just natural. When something happens to, you know, I've always said my job is we live in a sport that has a lot of dead spots and slow spots. It's my job to make sure nobody knew there was a slow spot. Sometimes those are the funnest times when something like that happens. For one, it's not scripted, and you guys know I love that. So I don't know. The people paid to get in. I guess they could have gone for a beer or whatever, but what the heck? I'll never forget. See, and I always think if there's a gap there, let's fill it in to a point. I'll never forget. It kind of off topic, but I was in Spanish Fork, Utah, and Zeb Bell was announced. Remember Zeb?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we hadn't worked together much. And the very last bull rider, as always, the very last bull rider gets a reride. And so I'm thinking, yeah, this is my. And I was at a point in my career like, give me every spot, give me every break there is. And I'll never forget. Well, folks, that guy, young man, gets a reride. It's going to take him a few minutes to get ready. We're going to put on some music here and just take a little break. We'll be right back with this reride. And I went, what? My head, like, whoa. And I just kind of took over. But yeah, he was ready. Just
Yeah. Time for
right,
a cig.
Smoke them if you got them, boys.
Time for a cig.
it's like Scott. It's like the old Richard Jones story. Hey, everybody, you watch here in a couple minutes. He's going to run them buffalo up on this trailer.
And walk outside and have a smoke while John Payne goes to work.
Oh, anyway. So,
I think the
but I
first
didn't
time.
know you were at Abilene. I went to Abilene once. It fell right after Cheyenne.
Yep.
Justin and I took our motorhomes. We went from Cheyenne to Abilene. And I do remember that my thermostat in the inside of my motorhome to run the air conditioner broke. So I had to get a hotel room for a night because you cannot go to Abilene, Kansas in August without an air conditioner.
And I believe I remember it being right after Cheyenne because McKee's horse almost bucked him flat off because he had that horse stalled up all for 2 weeks in Cheyenne, never once touched him, never brushed him, nothing. And in the middle of the bareback ride, and this horse breaks in two down the pen.
That's awesome.
I remember a lot of things.
Oh my!
Oh,
Look at my horse! Oh goodness! Yeah, there you go.
Let's go back to your early days because I want to talk about. You used to pack quite a few acts.
Yeah, there's a little misconception. I remember when I quit going to pro rodeos, even when I won Clown of the Year a few times and had the NFR and
8.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah.
Who's counting?
Who's counting?
The older guys that had the big cars and the huge acts, the word, there was a misconception because the word around was Flint doesn't do any real acts. He just walks and talks. He just dances. Well, I dance, but I think I do pretty good comedy too. And I did. I had a little grand piano act. I did an act that turned into Elvis. At the end, I did a Lord of the Clowns, Lord of the Dance thing where I changed costumes. And but still to this day, and there's a new generation of guys that really don't have props or anything. I just walk and talk. Yeah, but you kind of suck at it.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, you don't, but you need, rodeo is a place, in my opinion, that once during a show, I know I've always said PBR is PBR. It's sold as a sport. Rodeo is rodeo. Quit trying to fix rodeo. Rodeo is about kids and queens and clowns and trick ropers and trick riders. That's what rodeo is. So quit trying to fix it and make what's there better. But I think there's a spot for a clown act. And yeah, I maybe didn't have a big car act that split in half, the old traditional, but I had a grand piano that blew smoke and I played Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire, you know?
Yep.
And so to this day, there's a lot of guys, well, you never did acts. Yeah, I did. I did. They're in a trailer and the trailer's all sealed up. And when you open it, it's like King Tut's tomb. They all sparkle. Oh, there's the piano, you know, I still got them. And so, yeah, I enjoyed that. What it does is the walking and talking thing is one thing, but that act, then you can build around, you can talk about a lot of things around that. I did a little guitar. I didn't really play the guitar. I wrote a song and I wrote a song for Pendleton. And so I did some singing acts. My philosophy was this, and I tell young guys this, take what you know how to do. Like the dancing in the arena thing, that wasn't like some novelty. Hey, I think I'm going to dance in the arena. When music became a bigger part of rodeo and bull riding, it was just naturally what I did. I just got down because I was a dancer. I was believe it or not, I was the most popular kid at junior high and high school dance.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You were the man?
Yeah. So what happens is I've seen it happen at the NFR. Sean Davis at the NFR, this kind of eases into another story, but Sean Davis at the NFR, nobody got out of the barrel. Nobody wore a microphone, none of that. Well, pretty soon, Sean Davis let me get out and open the bull riding by dancing and get the crowd going. Well, then when I left, the next guy that comes, well, dancing wasn't their thing. When you think about Troy Lurwell and Keith Isley and, even John Harrison, who I love, and Robbie Hodges, who I love, the dancing thing isn't necessarily, that's not their deal. But Sean Davis wanted them to dance. Get out there and dance. Well, that's not a common clown thing. Damn it, that's my thing. So I guess that's kind of the misunderstanding is now everybody expects clowns to dance. Hey, we're going to play this music. Get out there and dance. Well, he doesn't dance, So it's created. Is all that my fault? Maybe. Look at
No, I think growing up, and I think from my standpoint, I always, I tried to study it all because I enjoyed that side, being on the stock contractor rodeo clown kit side. I studied the timing and watching everybody and understanding, like you said, you see a bull rider getting ready or a bareback rider or calf ropers having time in the box. And so you learn a lot of that timing. And there were guys that we grew up with, like yourself or Liesel, or, even Quail Dobbs, that had timing because they understood rodeo. That's what we miss in a lot of guys now is they don't have timing. They don't understand what's really going on in the arena to make sure that the people that bought a ticket are getting a real, and that's what's so neat, I think. And I know a lot of the PBR side is I don't want to say scripted, but it has its slots for you. But the old school, like I can remember 94, probably it was probably 94. The first time I remember you getting out of the barrel and bouncing, and you're having your pants bouncing up and down with your suspenders, and everybody in the crowd was like, Flint's out of the barrel, 1, and 2, what's he doing now? And then I remember becoming almost a staple to see a bounce, and then you'd pounce or whatever it was up on top of your barrel, and then it became that became part of the staple of our evenings every night.
Well, because what I get now is, people, hey, I want to do what you do. Or my son is the class clown. He wants to do your job. A lot of people come to me and say, I want to do your job. I've had bosses of PBR come to me and say, when you're gone, I just want to get an entertainer, not necessarily from rodeo, just somebody can entertain. Like, they'll get killed out there.
Yeah.
I think that's taken for granted, the knowledge of animals and the sport. Now, I am a unique situation in that I grew up around rodeo. I got all these factors. I grew up around rodeo. I was a 3-sport guy in high school and sang in the all-state choir, and was in the Sound of Music for the school play. So all these things that contributed, and I do think that's a unique situation in this, but you can't throw somebody out there that doesn't understand bull riding. Because, Scott, can you imagine working with somebody like that you're trying to sell Jess Lockwood as he's getting ready, and they're up in the crowd? Boo! It just doesn't work.
Oh, I get that in the middle of the summertime.
It's true. It's true.
But that brings me. But that brings me to another point about guys, and I say this to them, and I don't want anybody to ever think that I know everything, but I've been around a little bit. But my biggest problem with guys, some clowns now, is that, well, I'm just an off the cuff kind of guy. Okay, that's fine until there's nothing on the cuff. So I always tell everybody, like, new clowns will come to me at a rodeo and go, what do I need to do? You need to have 20 solid jokes in your pocket and don't plan on using them. But you better have them and write them down or something, because guess what? Well, I don't want to be old school. Well, sorry. Sometimes we need to be old school.
I'll tell you this. I didn't jump right into, what I do now didn't come from day one. I told the old clown jokes mixed in with some of my new style. I was young, but you need to have something. And right now, and you guys, you all three know this because you've seen me. Now, when the last bull rider gets a re-ride and we got 6 minutes, I can look at the crowd and start a conversation with someone, and that's my strength now. But I also have some things like you said, off the cuff is fine, but sometimes the cuff runneth empty.
Hey, Hey, Flint, I was going to say this is you had mentioned, kind of the things that are natural and having the knowledge base that you have. It's not like someone came in and said, I've not been around rodeo, but man, I'm the class clown or my son's a class clown. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding. It's about the flow, the timing and stuff like that. I think that was evident during Duluth when you took on more of the commentator, you were in front of the camera, you gave, some, observation and things like that. I think that blew quite a few people away because it's a different context to see you. And those of us who see you, listen to you, have the conversations, outside of the arena and listen, there's a great great knowledge base there
Well,
that I think that's so natural for you.
now, yeah, I wasn't the class clown. I'm very good friends still to this day with the kid that was the class clown. He drove me crazy. Yeah, I mean, those kind of people that are high energy all the time, they drive me crazy.
Robbie.
But you said that.
I did.
That guy
I
right
did.
there.
Mhm.
But it takes discipline. Like, here's the thing: it's not my show. It's a bull riding show. It's a rodeo, wherever you happen to be. So it's not our show. It's not Scott's show. It's not my show. It's not, it's the rodeo. The PBR is about the greatest bull riders in the world. Now, if something goes wrong, I need to step in. But there's a discipline there about when to come in, when to not to. Like we joked about, if it's Jess Lockwood or Cooper Davis's turn or JB Mooney, woo, don't look at me. I'm out.
Mm.
When we get to, when we're at a UTB Unleash the Beast event and it gets down to the short round, when it gets to the championship round on Sunday afternoon, I'm out until needed. That's when you step back and then we're crowning champion. So that's hard for some guys to understand. I pride myself. I did other things. I toured with a little singing group in college. I announced games, but I was I can honestly say I was a good student. And my mom always says I wasn't in trouble. I was, so everybody thinks you're wild. Everybody always says, you're a wild man. I'd like to party with you. No, you won't.
No, not really.
If you want to sit here and watch a movie and drink red wine, come on over.
I'm your
But,
man.
yeah, and
Hey.
Scott, you know that. I mean, we all go out at times and have drinks, but
Right.
I'm not wild. I'm tired by the time we're done.
But that's
So but it's different. I feel like I'm, I read things. I keep up with pop culture and news. It takes a discipline to do this job.
Mm. Well, and that's a great point about, and I love it. I love it, man. I just want to go with you some weekend. Gosh, you guys live the rock star life and blah 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 blah. Nope. You want to know what a Saturday night is? It's 3 guys in one hotel room eating a pizza. Because we got to get some sleep because we're on the first flight home the next morning.
Yeah. You get pizza?
Sometimes.
Oh. Well, and I don't have 3 guys in my room because I don't have shared room. Anyway.
Oh,
no.
that's true. You don't. Employee status.
Hey,
Yeah,
I have a question,
Yeah.
because people talk about it all the time, and even my dad. But 2 years ago, at Oklahoma City, that's where I'm from. So my dad, I invited him over to see the show and see the perf, and afterwards, literally the first thing went down, grabbed stuff out, come out of the elevator. That's where I met him, and I said, "So what'd you think?" And he goes, "Well, that old man can dance." And I'm like, "That old man, Dad, you're 82 years old. How old do you think he is?" And he goes, "I don't know, but he can sure dance." So, and I'm saying, "Hey, Dad, he's young. He's like 50." He's like, "Well, that ain't young, son." I'm like, "You're 82. I'm 50, Dad. I'm your baby boy, whatever." So the reason I want to share that and ask you this is, do you practice your dance moves?
I'm gonna have to now. Usually it's sort of like, NBA players, they play so many games that they do have walkthroughs and shoot arounds in practice. So I don't, and because I work so much, I don't have to practice dance. But there's little moves. So I will say this: when a couple of years ago, when the floss and all that
Yeah.
came out, my daughter Paige is a great dancer. Shelby's a good swing dancer, jitterbugger, but Paige is like, mm, she taught me. So I get with Paige and she teaches me the floss. She taught me the what, all that. Paige taught me that. So that was something will come up and I'm like, what's this new thing? So I'll get help like from Paige, but I don't really practice. I practiced dancing like Michael Jackson since about 8th grade. So, but I might, there was some music. Where was I? Music was playing the other day and I went like, and this is kind of funny, but it's also on a serious note a little. A song started in the car or something, and I started, and I went, man, I miss dance. I miss that. Like, and I can say, if there's a silver lining that might come out of all this, I was getting a little weary, a little burnt out this winter. We went 12, 13 weeks in a row. My personal life hasn't been wonderful.
Mhm.
You know, and I was getting a little tired and burnt out and physically just didn't feel right. And so when I come back, I'm going to appreciate when Nard or Richard plays that first song. I'm going to go, all right, here we go. And I will guarantee after the first night, I will hurt because you can run, on workout all you want, but there's nothing like dancing in the dirt and going all out for 10,000 people.
Mhm.
It's like being in game shape, right?
Yeah, I will not be in game shape, but anyway, so it made me realize I do miss it. It's that's why we do what we do, because when we don't have it, then we miss it.
Hey, you were mentioning something on your Facebook about the music directors, and I thought that was, man, the whole time I'm just like, how awesome is that to share the credit, to share some of that, and kind of talk about that. We were talking about that even before when we came on with you, but you were sharing last night about the music directors.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I was doing the NRA rodeos in Montana, and I went over. I got hired by, you guys, I'm sure know him now, Jim Mossbrucker in North
Mhm.
Dakota. And that was the first time I'd ever left Montana to work. And that was early in the early 90s and early mid 90s. And his daughter at the time played music during the show, was the music director. I had never worked with someone that was designated to play music during the show like that. So I'm out there, and it was probably Billy Dawn Cash announcing, and she starts playing this good music during the bull riding, and I just started getting down. And I'm like, this is a whole, wait a second. This is my thing here. So then as I joined the PRCA and went to the bigger rodeos, then you start working with guys like Gogi Grant. I worked with him, and then it was Chuck Lopman and Benji, and then it was Mark and Richard. I mean, there's been a lot of them, but it has brought a whole new aspect to the shows, positive. It's created another aspect of discipline for guys like Scott, the announcers that now build to music like we've never done before. A rider will have a song, and you build to that point in the song, and you come out of it, when to back off, when everybody's in tune with that. But man, the good ones just know how to come in and out. I can look. I'll look at Richard. Chuck Lopman was this way. Mark Stevenson for years. I'd look and we'd have a spot, and I give them a little hand signal, and bam, there's that song, and it'll work at that time. The good ones know what will work for the announcer and what will work for me without trying to do their job, do our job, if that makes sense. So the great ones, my mom even said the other day, man, there's guys that actually just do the music thing. I'm like, Mom, how long have you been friends with Chuck Lopman? I mean, he stayed at my house, and well, I know it's fairly new. Well, I guess, and when you're 82, it's fairly new. But it is. Where would we be? Where would I be? There are times in a show where we've had a lot of breakdowns, and I'm tired. When the cuff is empty,
Mhm.
and I'll look at the music guy, and bam, there's the outfield. He's on a vacation far away. Music man saved my ass right there. So they mean a lot to me, and a lot of times that's your closest friends, and if they're not, you make them your closest friend. So
Well, and they're able to. I've always said this: Richard Jones, that denim wearing, good looking buck, he reads a crowd better than anybody that I know.
yeah. Well, you know what else? I think you can tell the ones that music means something to them. Like music means something to me. It's a big part of, has always been a big part of my life. My girls are musical. Nothing in the world invokes emotion, good or bad. Sadness, happiness, love, breakup, heartbreak, like music.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the great music people, you can tell music means something to them. Somebody like Richard Jones, like you said, he loves music.
Yep.
You know, Brad Narducci, he loves music. If it's just a music guy and music doesn't mean anything to him, they still can do a good job, but I can tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like it needs to invoke an emotion. You know, I'll be in certain moods of driving my car and put on, I have a Pandora station called Sad Country Songs. Because you can sit by yourself and
Yep.
play songs and let tears roll down your face, and then when you stop, you do this and get out of the car and you're done.
Yep.
You
You
know,
feel
and,
better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
look at what music can do to a crowd.
Yep.
You know, certain songs that they'll sing with. We go to New York City, and there's 13,000 people singing as loud as they can to Piano Man by Billy Joel, because Billy Joel plays there every year.
Yep.
You know, and it makes them happy. It makes them realize, you know, New York. And
Yep.
I don't know. There's a lot of things, a lot of ways to go with that, but yeah, the big part of the show nowadays.
When did the transition happen for you from rodeoing to the PBR, and who was the person that made that call to you to get you over to the dark side?
Well, over to the what side?
Over to the dark side.
You sound, yeah, well, you, Randy.
Yeah.
I became the first person that made me an employee of the company was Tommy Joe Lucia.
Mhm.
And that would have been about 02, 03. I wasn't exclusive PBR. My first PBR World Finals was 1997.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been around a little while. And he made me an employee, and every year I had to do more of the main tour ones. So I was easy. What it was doing was taking the place of some of those winter rodeos that I was scrambling to have to get. And then it would have been the winter of 05, middle of the winter, Randy Bernard grabbed me, and I was still rodeoing and doing PBRs. And he grabbed me at a PBR, and he said, I want you to be exclusive. You know, I'll pay you a certain amount. I'll offer you this much a year. You'll have all of the benefits. But if people want to see you, they know they got to go to a PBR. And I laughed it off.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me? I've done the NFR the last 7 years. Do you know I've got this bonus and this bonus? And no way. I'm a rodeo guy. I left and I went all spring and started up my rodeo season about the first part of June. And I went to the first rodeo, and in my head, I knew. I just kind of went,
Yeah.
I just was done everything I could do in rodeo. I mean, yeah, there was some rodeos. I can't really think of a rodeo where I go, man, I always wanted to do that rodeo and never got to. Can't think of any, because the ones I loved, the ones I had. I worked a lot in the Northwest, and I was tired, and I felt like I plateaued. What more can I do? This could be a new adventure. And I called him back. I called Randy back in June. I said, is that offer still good? He said, you damn right, it's still good. But I had like 2 and 3 year contracts at rodeo. So I went to him and talked to him. And this is a lesson for young guys. You know what I see happening right now? And this is a bad trend. If you're a young guy listening to this, it's BS. The first year I did Cheyenne, remind me where I left off so I don't forget what I'm talking about. The first year I did Cheyenne, they came and said, we want you to come to Cheyenne. I had a 2-year deal at Deadwood, South Dakota. I went to the first 5 days of Cheyenne and left and went and did the last. I went and did Deadwood, South Dakota. I see a lot of, well, I had a contract at this little rodeo, but geez, Reno came along, so I'm
Right.
going to send somebody else to that little one. BS.
Yeah.
If you have a contract somewhere, unless there's a deal worked out with you guys, well, I mean, I guess there's extenuating circumstance. You stick to your gut. You do business the right way.
Yep.
If you have a contract somewhere, damn it, you go. You know, and I see that happening a lot. And that, you mean, so is that what you think of your job? You're just going to send somebody else and think they're okay with that? I never understood that. So when I went to these committees and said, listen, I want to be home more, which that, as I've discovered, it's a different kind of home. There was a bond with family rodeoing, and so not all of it worked like I thought. But I went to him and I said, this is what I want to do. My girls are almost in school. I want to fly back and forth. I need to do this. I'm burnt out physically. The last summer that I rodeoed, 05, the month of July, I did 26 rodeo performances.
Wow.
St. Paul, Oregon. I'll tell you where they were too. St. Paul, Oregon, Calgary Stampede, Cheyenne Frontier Days, and then I might have gone to Abilene that year. Anyway, those are three of the biggest rodeo arenas in the country.
Yeah.
And I was worn out. So I went to these committees. Point being, why I went on the tangent about do business right. Guess what they all said? You know what, Flint? You've always treated us right. We understand what you're doing. Thank you for always being good to our committee and doing things the right way, whatever you need to do. You know, like my dad told me, be careful of whose toes you step on, for they may be connected to the ass you have to kiss. You know?
What goes around comes around.
Anyway, I didn't mean to get on that tangent, but I see a lot of young guys, like, when you're supposed to be somewhere, just go. When you're supposed to do an appearance, just go. When they want you in a parade, just go. You're not famous in the real world, and fame is fake. So go do your thing. Do what committees ask you. That's what's going to get you somewhere.
Well, and the people that you really want to work for will respect those things. Like I mean, I remember one of the first calls I got to do a PBR was Albany, New York for Jerry Nelson. And I told Jerry, I'm booked. And he goes, where are you booked at? And I said, Pretty Prairie, Kansas. I got a little bull riding there for Jimmy Carruthers, and it pays $300, but I gave Jimmy my word. And I showed up at that bull ride, and Jimmy goes, what in the world are you doing here? Do you not know that Jerry's my partner? And I said, my agreement was with you. I said, you and me had a deal, and I'm here for you. I said, yeah, it might take me 3 more years to catch up for that, but my deal is with you. And that's something I try to tell young guys too, is don't back out, because you might need that guy.
Here's one. Here's a good one. The first year that the PBR finals was at Thomas and Mack, I think it was the year of 11 90-point ride, 99. It was when all the 90-point rides were that night that they've been playing. I only did 3 PBRs that year. That was when Bill Selman from Bud Light didn't necessarily, it wasn't a personal thing. They wanted to get away from the rodeo clown thing because they were selling it more as a sport, as a pro sport. So I only did like 3 events. So Jerome Robinson, who's still around, called me like August, said, hey, I'm just confirming you're coming to the PBR World Final, which I think was October at that time. I said, Jerome, I booked a rodeo. I did 3 events this year. I booked a rodeo in Central Point, Oregon. And he said, all right. Well, PBR wasn't quite what it is now, granted. But, I said, I got to go, Jerome. If it was your rodeo, you'd want me to go. So guess what? I missed the PBR finals in 1999 because I booked a 3-day rodeo in Central Point, Oregon.
Yep.
That's the way it goes.
Yep.
So if people don't believe that that's how I did business, so I think that does. I get asked a lot if I'd ever do clinics or schools for kids, and if I did, I'd teach that kind of stuff. I probably can't teach you to be funny, but I can teach you to not screw people over.
Live up to your word, live up to your contracts.
Speaking of that, were there rodeo clowns that you did look up to because of your profession? Were there guys that you studied even?
No, like I said, we didn't take off and travel to big PRCA rodeos. So my background lent itself to stand-up comedians and performers. Like I always wanted to be a musician, a rock star. I'll never forget 1991 or 92 when that first Garth Brooks special was on TV on NBC. That I was enthralled. I mean, that guy, that's what I love is, and I think maybe you can see that now as the years have gone. That's me. Listen, I'm a rock star that doesn't sing, like a lot of them. So I looked up to entertainers like that, combined with some good physical comedy type stand-up comedians, and Howie Mandel was he was my favorite. That's where I stole the boneless chicken from Howie Mandel, as a matter of fact. So I looked up to guys. I'll tell you, the first time I ever helped a guy, believe it or not, do clown acts was Lloyd Ketchum, bullfighter Lloyd Ketchum. He was doing NRA rodeos in Montana, and he was the clown and the bullfighter. Bullfighter.
Was he funny?
No.
We blew up the outhouse. And we were hilarious.
What a great! Yeah.
We
Can't
were
go wrong
hilarious.
with that one. Yeah.
I'll try to get it. Lloyd has a VHS tape of it.
Oh my goodness.
I'll try to get it. We need to get it converted over, but Lloyd was it was before microphones. So Lloyd had that, hey, when they yelled at the announcer. I thought Lloyd was kind of funny. I mean, he had glasses and but he knew kind of how to go about things. So I looked up to Lloyd as a bullfighter and a professional. He helped me a lot with how to do business the right way and things like that. Butch Lemcooler I thought Butch Lemcooler was really funny. He's the one that I guess I could say I looked up to him because, he was a champion diver in college. He was on the diving team. That's why, and this is the other thing. There's guys out there that do a trampoline act. You know what made Butch Lemcooler's trampoline act so good? He was a diver. So he did the backflip. So that's where he got the clown act. He took what he did well and he incorporated it into a clown act. That's been my philosophy from day one. And I learned that from Butch. The thing was, oh my God, what's this guy going to do on a trampoline? And he sells it by being unbelievable on this trampoline. It isn't so much about the trampoline. The sell is the fact, oh my God, this clown is really good on the trampoline.
Yeah.
That's the sell, So Butch, I think he helped me a lot too, and guided me professionally and respected what I did, and that was important.
Hey, so a big question, I think, listening to your history, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? I know you've probably answered that a million times, but
yeah, and I don't know if I can answer it. I was a school teacher. I taught school out of college. So would I be a teacher and coach? I don't know. It's hard because if you have that little bug of loving being in front of audiences and knowing you have something to offer people to make their day better, and is it teaching? Maybe it's teaching, because you're basically, honestly, you're entertaining a crowd and trying to bring something positive to people. So maybe that's what it is.
So I think one of the things, not to interrupt, one of the things that a lot of people don't get to see that we see is the interaction with the bull riders, the interaction that you, it's almost like mentoring. It's almost like when a bull rider is not successful, we see disappointment in you, and it's genuine disappointment, or that you're like, oh God, or when somebody, lights one up, dude, you light up and you're going, there's a genuineness about that mentoring aspect. And you can see that teaching, that obviously where that teaching background, is part of you. But that's the reason I ask is we see that constantly, but everybody doesn't really probably recognize it because they're seeing you dancing and part of the entertainment part of it. And then they stop and drink their beer, may not watch how you interact. And then even in the back, in the alleys and stuff.
Well, when I started, it was Ted Noose and Jim Sharp and Tuff Hedeman, and now we're to Jess Lockwood,
Yeah.
And guys will say, people, I think there's this stigma of if you were never a bull rider, you don't have a right to say something about it. I mean, how many thousands of bull rides I've seen? I mean, But the biggest thing is I've seen the great ones. I've seen the Justin McBrides and Michael Gaffneys and Adriano Moraes, how they how they don't let the highs and lows get too high and low. I can think of people like Matt Triplett. Matt Triplett will fight his head, and I'll put my arm around him and say, "Hey, you're riding good. That just didn't work that time. So keep doing that. Keep doing. Hey, stick with it here. Stick with it here. Uh, rub them on the head. Say, okay, you're good. You're good. You got just get another one here. You're good. And it relates to teaching because oftentimes bull riders are like kindergartners. So,
good statement. True statement. True.
Anyway, I appreciate you seeing that. Derek Kolbaba, I talked to him a lot. Some guys don't need it because they do have that edge. Jess Lockwood can have a temper. People think he's a pompous ass. He's a hothead. No, he hates to lose. But Jess Lockwood was a state champion wrestler in Montana. He hates to lose and he knows how to win. So he knows that you get those few minutes of being pissed and then you come back ready. He knows that. He doesn't let it affect him forever. You can see him back behind the chutes 10 minutes later and he's like, yeah, I should have rode, But it's funny. People in rodeo don't like to see guys mad. They think we should all tip our hats and woohoo. But when guys hate to lose, like Jerome Robinson said, JB Mooney was the first one to throw his rope and his helmet down the hall and get filmed doing it. And everybody thought he was an ass. And Jerome Robinson said, we all did it. There was just no cameras around. Joe Beaver talks all the time that if he was behind the chutes walking and a bull rope flew by with the belt, he's like, oh, Tough must have bucked off because Tough Edeman and Joe Beaver were the same way. They hated to lose. Oh. So anyway.
Well, yeah, we just actually open it up to the rest of the world to show that our guys are that kind of athlete. I mean, football players do it, basketball players do it, baseball players throw a fit, and I'm not saying that throwing an overboard fit is the right thing, but it's nice to see the emotion out of those guys because this is an emotional sport, and it's just like us. People saying, "Well, you don't know," and because you never rode bulls, I've never rode a bull, but if I say something, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Go out and do it different the next time. And
hey, the thing is, Scott, when those guys are pissed and Chase Outlaw kicked the garbage can down the hall at the World Final, he's not mad at you. He's mad at himself.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
If Chase Outlaw wants to be mad at himself, let him be mad at himself. I don't care.
Yep.
We had that conversation with Stetson Lawrence. The other day. He was because he came off, bucked off on one he should have had, and went through the, right past the curtains and right there. And the next thing you know, his 100X goes flying. Literally, I mean, he must have thrown it about 25 feet, slams into the wall, slides, does all this other stuff, and he was like, as soon as I did it, I knew I shouldn't have done it. And it's like, dude, we understand that competition part. We understand that's going to happen. It is what it is, and for him, he's like, yeah, I didn't have another way to release it. It's like, it is what it is.
That's right. That's right.
And it's but that's what makes those guys get on back of 15, 16, 1,800, pound bulls.
Yeah. They're wired just a little bit different than the majority of people people around the world. So, Flint, hopefully one of these days we're going to get to work together again.
Man, I'll tell you, what scares me is things are looking better, but when is it going to be okay for 10,000 people to gather in one big room?
Yeah, I know. I think, I think we're going to be able to do another Duluth type show where we're going to be doing a made for TV. But yeah, when does it come? Which let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. And I mentioned this with
Triplett.
I don't know who it was the other day. We've all performed in front of, 10 or 20 people at a little rodeo somewhere. But we have never performed in front of a completely empty seat house. And that was, what an experience that was.
It was. I kind of got dialed in with, with respect to you, watching you work and seeing how in and out of Ride Pass, which I was pretty familiar with, having done some TV and radio stuff. But I got dialed into really watching the guys on the rides, and I started to kind of forget there was no people there. But I'll tell you what I was impressed with, and I include you in this, Scott, but Clint Atkins and Matt West, they announced that thing like there's 12,000
Yeah,
people.
yep, exactly.
And that helped. It was cool. You know, the riders appreciated it. They appreciated the music, and but it's a little eerie for sure. You realize how much our loyal fans contribute to the quality of what we
Mhm.
do, even the riders. Because when a crowd gets rolling, and the bulls too. That one of the guys in the back pen said the bulls were all real mellow, just
Yeah.
kind of walking where they wanted to go because no crowd noise, no,
That
So
energy.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was the easiest load in and load out. This one guy was saying, he's like, I've never had bulls come to me this slow
Yeah.
to go to go to the next spot. He said it was just it was so different, but awesome. And I think we're gonna. I have a feeling before we see a coliseum full of people, we'll probably have to do a couple more of those kind of events because I don't know if we're gonna be able to
And,
open to the public.
I was trying to pinpoint. I did it on my Facebook thing the other day. Things I missed. Not to go through the list, but what it all comes down to is I miss through all this. We're just going through the motions of life. Go to the grocery store. We go here. We go there. We don't go out with a bunch of people. We can't do that. But you know what it is? Passion. I miss
Mhm.
passion. Our entire show is the fans are passionate, the riders are passionate, the music guy is, the announcers are, I am. When we're living in a life like we're living right now, I miss there's just no passion
Yep.
for anything. And so I'm going to write that down. I'm going to use that again.
There
That's
you go.
good.
That was good stuff. That was good
But
stuff.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I think that's what you said it earlier. You were getting burned out. I think we've seen a lot of guys through the rodeo career get burned out. You've shown as much longevity in the week to week as anybody ever has. I mean, the only other one out there right now would be, besides Liesl just passed away, would maybe be Leon. And he's got
Right.
his own style. He was a bullfighter prior and everything. But your longevity in the sport continues to, you've adapted to the social media and you know, as your
Right.
girls have grown, you've used a lot of that, and it continues to change who you are. It's you still do the dancing and everything, but you're able to continually make the material your own every week,
Right.
and that's
And
because
you
you're
know what?
passionate about the sport.
Yeah. And one thing that's exhausting, that does get exhausting, and why I do tend to burn out a little bit, I don't have a list of jokes that I tell at certain times because you can, with all due respect to guys who do that, you can kind of brainlessly and unpassionately do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constant. My material comes from what I'm getting, so my mind is just, and I think that's a little of sometimes why I do get when I leave the arena. Sometimes I'm grouchy, not mean grouchy, just I don't want to talk to anyone because I want to go back in. I don't. I'm tired of doing this and looking at everything. So when it's over, I just want it all to go back in, and so
But and now the way that Ride Pass has came back to a change in format where your show is live. So 90% now of what you do is live to the people. So you can't have that same 20 stuff that you do week in and week out because then it's the same show. So you've got to be able to reach out and find something about Kansas City, something about Little Rock, something about New York, and change it up constantly.
Scott, when that first started happening with PBR Live or whatever, and they were
Yep.
taking the in arena feed for the first time, it didn't do me any good. I got a lot of feedback from fans. You need to retire. You're doing the same thing here. You're doing the same thing there. You look at you. I mean, it wore on me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, people discovered that we're going to 1 or 2 live events every year. They were now watching every week, and they discovered, I don't know, I don't do the same thing night after night, but the pattern is the same.
Right.
And they were feeding back on me saying, "Oh, come on. Do you think Kenny Chesney sings different songs every night that he's on tour?"
Exactly. Yep.
It is a show, right?
I mean, you just can't.
Yeah.
So sorry, everybody. So it did affect me, and I'm aware of that. But I think what I've come to the realization now is the people I'm really playing to are the ones that bought tickets. So I gotta do what they want to do and what works with that live audience. If it's Sweet Caroline for the 4th weekend in a row, so be it. If it works, it works. If they're having
Hey,
fun,
but
they're
is
having fun.
but
Yeah.
isn't it cool that some of the I'll say skits for lack of a better term, or some of the things that you use, different events, it hits. You know, you might do the Sweet Caroline 4 in a row, but that fourth one might just be, it just might load up the whole, everybody's getting into it and everybody's doing the bomb, 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 or whatever it is that the three before didn't.
Right. I'll tell you what, for example, we go to Manchester, New Hampshire this year. Who the hell goes to Manchester, New Hampshire? And we are, as a crew, as personnel, we're like, and we don't like the ones that aren't easy.
Right.
You know, you had to fly into Boston, drive an hour. It was a freaking party. I mean, it didn't matter what we played, what we did. They were singing, they were dancing, they were drinking beer. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Boston Harbor. It's not the PBR, it's the PBR. Yeah. So you're right. Some places it works, some places it doesn't, some places are better. So yeah. You keep throwing the spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks.
That's right.
That's what you do.
That's right. Well, hey, Flint, thank you for joining us today. I know after a run like that, it's just time to take a nap.
Well, hey
Right.
guys, and by the way, I am working on today. I'm doing kind of the first one, some stuff for social media for PBR, kind of a Flint from home, a couple shows a week, probably that are just a few minutes where I'm doing some clips and some different things. So I'm getting to work on that today and trying some different things. So trying to stay relevant. You guys know, Scott, we're just trying to stay busy and somehow stay relevant with the fans and keep them hooked and help ourselves. Somebody asked me the other night when I was on my Facebook Live things, which has had great numbers.
Yeah, they've been blowing up.
And somebody said, how are you getting by with no PBRs? This is it.
Yeah.
This is how we get.
Yeah.
You know, this is.
Well, I think you're going to touch on it too earlier and ask him. I think about, but one of the things that I've enjoyed as you've gone farther and we watch it because we get a lot of the same weekends together and things, and over the years, is your fan of the night. I think that it continues to change. Just the way you present it each time. It's given such a different feel at the end. There's that. It's like when we get to fan of the night, it's like, oh, I better get to the locker room, or Chris, we need to get to the locker room and finish up because we're at that closing point, but it closes it out different.
Yeah. And I think you've learned that parents, just because you dress your kids up like me, doesn't mean he's going to be fan.
No, that's what I love about it.
And here's the other one is like, and it's never going to be the drunk girl, right?
Never going to be the hot drunk girl.
Never,
Nope.
right?
Never. No.
But I think what I enjoy about it is you don't see that in any other professional sport. Never is there anybody that gets singled out and the entire crowd. I mean, there's multiple times you walk out of there
Right.
and you're doing this because you're like, man, you forget those are the people buying the tickets.
Yeah, can you imagine Gillette Stadium? All right, running up in the crowd, going up, 32 levels, and going, all right.
Well,
You know?
Global
Good
Cup,
job, Peter.
the Global Cup, all the adopted children.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
like,
whew,
Hey,
that'll light you up.
You guys got to know something. It is unbelievable how much. Well, my dad used to call it. I'll call it crap house luck. How many lucky things I fall into, like just happen to pick somebody, and there's a bigger story that really makes me look good. Like but rarely. I mean, I'll get requests and different things, but I fall into more of that crap. It's amazing, but it's got to mean something to me. People
It
say,
does.
how do you pick it? Well, sometimes it's hard, so you do pick the guy that's dressed up that,
Right.
but I like it to mean something. There was a little Down syndrome kid last year named Elliot, and it choked me up when I did it. He had a sign that said, Flint, you make me happy. I said, Elliot, you make me happy. Well, here lately on Twitter, his parents have been throwing out videos. Elliot was all dressed the other day and ready to go to the rodeo. He was ready to go to the rodeo. He thought they were going, and his dad, they walked up and said, how about we go check cows? He said, okay. And he dropped his bag and they went and checked cows. And I messaged and said, I'll meet you there soon, Elliot. It's got to mean something to you. And that's what I try to do. It doesn't always work that way, but yeah, it isn't always the parents that dressed up their kid like me.
Yeah. Well, how many times has it ever happened? And I'm sure I'm assuming it's live. But how many nights have you had? You're like, man, gosh, I wish I had 5 buckles, because there's really 3 or 4 of those, and you're like, man, I know this is going to be important. I'm sure there's probably nights you went, okay, we're going to give it out anyway.
Some nights I'm 2 rides away and I'm going, who the hell's going to be my family night? But you guys have seen me. You guys have seen it where I'll give one person the fan of the night buckle, and the kid over here, I'll sign my hat.
Mhm.
Give
Yep.
him my hat.
That is always awesome.
We've talked about that many times.
That is, yeah.
In fact, you don't hear because you're still in the arena, but a lot of times you hear the guys say, "Hey, who was Flint's fan of the night tonight?" And we hear it a lot because even the riders, they're talking about it.
That's funny. Cool. That's good. Good deal.
Well,
I
buddy,
appreciate it, guys.
thanks.
For the
Yeah,
good word.
thanks for coming on, everybody. Check out Flint's Instagram, his Facebook. You've been going live a couple times a week right now, and along with the help of Chris Pantani and Cooper Tires, who has been a big partner of yours for a long, long time. So, little shout out to Cooper, and take it easy today, okay?
Guys, this is good. We need some of this. And like I said, this is how we get by.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Exactly. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Another episode of the Two Big Guys in Grover podcast. We will see you down the road.